So we are in the home stretch here, and this is the second half of your Analysis of Student Learning Project 2 for CI 3400. So you've completed parts 1 through 4. This is the template. And we're going to talk today a little bit about parts 5 through 7. So this is where the real analysis happens. You're going to start with a general whole group analysis, then small group analysis, then individual student analysis. So if you look at it sort of an inverted pyramid, you go from the whole group, small groups, individual. This is where you want to really use your writing skills and your details. This is not the place to just generalize or be brief. Okay, so a lot of the feedback I usually give on first drafts for these parts is more detail, elaborate, more detail, elaborate. So say to yourself, just give it all you got. I help you out here with these bullet points. Now, some students have chosen to use the bullet points as headers so that they make sure they address each of those bullet points, and that's fine. And then other students just make sure that they address them within the paragraphs that they write, and that's fine also. I just want you to be aware of these bullet points and that they are required for each of these sections. So the first thing you'll do is you're going to look at the whole group. Okay? Look at your chart from part 3 and look at all your data. And I want you to write some conclusions. What are the misconceptions? What are the patterns of error? What are the patterns of accuracy? What did they do right consistently? The comments about breadth and depth of student learning. This talks about those higher levels of thinking skills. Is there questions or are there tasks that students have to perform that shows these higher levels of thinking skills? And then, based on your conclusions about the patterns of student performance, you're going to give some recommendations to improve performance. For example, you might say, it looks like in number 5, students didn't understand how to estimate. We'll need to go back and reteach estimation. Okay? So make sure that you discuss what your recommendations will be and how they'll improve the student learning. This is a really important part for teachers. It's just not enough for you to grade the tests. You have to be able to change your practice to increase your impact on student learning. So this last part here is really important, that you're able to show me you know how to do this. Okay, so that's the whole group. So now we're going to move on to small groups. And you'll create 2 groups, a high-performing and a low-performing group. You might have 3 groups. It's often hard to do just 2 groups. So you might have a high-high, a middle, and a low. And that's fine too, okay? So you just sort them into like these performing groups, and then you're going to do the same kind of process through here. I want you to analyze and discuss the performance of them, similarities and differences, misconceptions, patterns of error, patterns of accuracy, comments about the breadth and depth of their student learning, and then recommendations. So you can see there's sort of a pattern here. You're going to be doing the same process of analysis, but you're using a different lens each time. So the first time it's the whole group, the second time it's high and low performing small groups, and then on part 7, it's an individual student. So now you're really focusing in on one learner. Just pick one of the examples that you have in your data set, and you're going to make sure that there's enough data to analyze for that student. So if they're a student who got an A+, nothing wrong, everything was perfect, there's not a lot of data there to talk about. So you want to find a student that you'll be able to talk a lot about. So make sure that you talk about their misconceptions, patterns of error, patterns of accuracy, comments about the breadth and depth of their learning, and then how could we have improved their achievement specifically. Okay? So you can see how it's sort of that inverted pyramid. We start with the whole group and it's sort of generalizations. Then we start with these high and low performing groups, 2 very different needs. So we start to differentiate instruction, and then finally we come down here to the individual student, and that is really defined. Okay? So again, detail, detail, detail. on these parts. And these are all just a narrative. Make sure you watch your mechanics and your grammar, typos, anything like that. And make sure it's professional writing. So you don't want to call the students kids, you want to call them students. Okay, so make sure that this is a professional document.